Good morning, class. Kind of strange times we're living in, I know. I'm going to be providing you guys some activities, some different opportunities to maybe review some of your education that we've learned throughout the year. I know some of you are maybe finding yourself a little bored, and maybe you just get a little scared that you're going to lose some math facts that we've learned throughout the year. So I'm going to provide you some opportunities to do that. Don't feel obligated that you have to get these done. They're not graded. It's just one of those things like, I want you to continue your education just maybe in a different format that I can provide you that will make it easiest on you. Now, at the end of this video, I'll provide you a Google form that you can provide me some feedback on some different problems out that you can try. Again, it's not great. It's just one of those things I want you to try it out. Maybe you can show me that you know what you're doing. But again, appreciate you watching the video, and let's jump right in. So what we're going to be doing here is we're going to be reviewing perimeter, circumference, and area for some different figures. We're going to do this first, and then maybe later video that we'll do, maybe later this week or next week, we'll do maybe some volume problems for some different shapes. So the figures I picked out today were a square, rectangle, triangle, and a circle. And these were some objects that we've done previously. And again, none of these videos or opportunities, activities that I'll be providing in the next couple weeks are anything new. It's just review of previous topics that we've done maybe earlier in the year. So let's jump right in. Let's talk about the square first. So a square, obviously with some different formulas I provide to you here. If you're going to do perimeter, that's what the little P stands for in this little formula here. Perimeter, you can add up the four sides together, and that would give you perimeter of an object. Now there's a different formula. You could just take the 4 times one of the walls. So they said S was one of the sides. So you take 4 times S, and it provides you the perimeter of the object. So in my case, mine is not a perfect square. It's more of a rectangular shape. But to find the perimeter on this object, it's almost square, you would just add up the 4 walls. So in my case, I have a couple differences, so it's more rectangular in shape, but it's close. And you would add these all up, and you get your total, your total feet for my perimeter. Again, the perimeter is in feet. In this particular case, you just add up the numbers. If I add 6 plus 6 plus 5.5 plus 5.5 on a calculator here, it's telling me that my total number is 23. Now again, at the very end of this video, I'll provide you a Google form. You can go try out a couple of problems. You wouldn't need to put the label on. You just type in the number that you get. So I'm getting 23 total. That would be the perimeter on this particular object. It's almost square in nature. It's more rectangular, and I'll do a rectangle here next again. But let's talk about area. So if you're going to do area, now area is not the fence. It's not the distance around the object. Area is the space on the inside. It's the actual number, like little square tiles that you'd have on the inside. And so what we're going to do is the formula says you just take one of the sides and you square it if it's a square, so one of the sides squared. So, or in my case, I just take length times width, so 6 times 5.5. That's what you're doing. You're taking the sides times each other. That's what side squared means, times side. So in my case, 6 times 5.5, I'm getting 33 on a calculator if I take 6 times 5.5. And the label would be square feet. That'd be the label. Again, if you're doing the Google form, you don't need to put in a label. You can just type in your number, 33. But again, that's area. It's how many little square tiles would be in the surface of this object on the inside. Now again, that same formula works for rectangle as well. We just, this, again, it's almost square by the 2 numbers that I'm giving you here. But again, you just add up the lengths of the walls together to find perimeter. So again, perimeter on this particular object is, in my case, 2.1. 2.1 plus 3.2 plus 2.1 plus 3.2. I'd add up all 4 walls, and then your label in this case would be in centimeters because that's what we have. So 2.1 plus 2.1 plus 3.2 plus 3.2, and we get 10.6. Now, if you're looking over here, you could just, like the formula says, you could take 2 times one of the lengths and 2 times one of the widths, add those 2 together. It's a different way to do it. Most people just type in the numbers and add them up. It's just as fast. But again, you get perimeter, total fence line around the object is 10.6 centimeters. Now for area, and you're seeing the formula down below, you just take the length times width, just like we did in the square. So 3.2 times 2.1, and that should give you the area of this object, how many little square tiles are on that surface. So 3.2 times 2.1, I'm getting 6.72, and the label here would be square centimeters, or centimeter squared, if you will. You want to type it like that. But again, on the Google form, you just have to type in the numbers. You don't need to type in the labels. All right, let's go to the next one. So the next one I had picked out was a triangle. Now, no matter what the triangle is, you want to try to make a right angle. So I do have a right angle here. That's a 90-degree angle. And so when you find area, that's important. You have to use the height and then the base. So the base is the bottom of the object. Height is how tall it is. That's important for area. For perimeter, it's not so much. You just add up the outside walls. So for perimeter of this particular object, I'm going to switch up my color here. You would just add up this wall here, which is 9.5. You add up this wall, 10.2, and then the 9.5. That's the outside of the triangle, not the inside. So 9.5 plus 9.5, and then you add up the 10.2. And your total label should be in inches, and you just add these up. So 9.5 plus 9.5 plus 10.2, and I get 29.2 inches. And again, if you're on my Google form later, you just type in 29.2 and you don't need to put in a label on it. Okay, now that's for the perimeter of this object. It's the distance around it. That's the fence line. Now if we do area, you take base times height. So again, for area, you take base times height. So in my case, I'm taking 10.2 times 8. That's the height of this object. That's where the height comes in, that little red line going down through the middle. Then whatever the answer is, then you cut it in half or divide it by 2, if you will. But this is the order that you go in. So that's what this formula is explaining. So 10.2 times 8, and then you cut that in half. So if I divide that by 2, it's 40.8. And now the label here would be in inches squared or square inches. Inches squared, if you had to put a label on it. Now, I know some of you are thinking, well, I could have just cut one of those in half. You can cut 8 in half and just take 4 times 10.2. You're absolutely right. You can just cut one of the numbers in half. Maybe you're cutting the 10.2 in half to make it 5.1 times 8. That would work. Again, you just cut one of the numbers in half and multiply it, and it'll still work out to be the same area. But I think it's just easier. You just take base times height and divide by 2. Again, no matter what the numbers are. Okay. Again, that's for a triangle. It's basically half of a rectangle. That's why you just multiply the length times width or base times height, I guess, and then cut it in half. All right, now the last one I have here is based on a circle. Now, I have 2 different examples of circles here. One that I provided here has a radius. So let me switch up the color here. So in this case, I provide you a radius here of 3 inches. So if we want to find circumference is a big fancy word for a circle for finding the distance around it. That was something we did right before we let out for the end of the third quarter. So circumference, or the distance around it, is you take the radius, which in my case is 3 inches, you take it times 2, and then you take it times pi, and pi is 3.14. Now again, most calculators have a pi button, so you could use that as well. But I'm going to take 3 times 2, and then take it times pi on my calculator, and it tells me on my calculator 18.849. And again, if I was rounding it, maybe 18.85. And then the label would still be in inches. That's the distance around. That's the distance all the way from beginning to end, I guess, all the way around. Now, area. Area is how many little square tiles fit on the surface of that object. I know it's circular, but you can still fit square tiles in the inside. And you take pi times the radius squared. In my case, my radius is 3 inches, and we have to square it. So squaring it means you take it times itself. So 3 times 3 is 9 inches squared. And then you're going to take it times pi. So the pi button times 9, I'm getting 28.27 if I want to round it. And that's square inches or inches squared, however you want to label it. Again, that's how many square tiles fit in the object. Now, I have one more of these. I have one more circle, and this is if they didn't give me radius, they gave me a diameter. It's still the same thing. So in this case, they did give me the entire diameter all the way across. So you could do the same thing. You just have to cut this number in half. So if I cut this number in half, I get 3.1 centimeters. And that would be the radius from here to here, right? And then I just go from there. Circumference is the radius times 2 times pi. And then the area is your radius, 3.2 centimeters squared, times pi. And you get your 2 numbers. But again, Radius is the big important number for circles, so you do have to find radius. So you might have to take the diameter, cut it in half. And how they denote it, so how do you know if they're giving you diameter versus radius? It's basically, did they draw the line all the way across the circle? Or did they just give you half of it like the last one? So if you look at the last example I did, they just drew the line halfway across. So that's kind of how you can tell instantly. All right, I provided you a link to a Google form. If you want to go try out some problems throughout the week and resubmit them, I'll check your answers. I think if you submit the answers and you review it at the very end, it'll tell you if you're right or wrong. But again, if you want feedback, I'll more than happy to provide you that. Again, I'll provide you different videos and different activities, I should say. They're not all be videos, but different activities throughout the next couple weeks that give you an opportunity to kind of review, continue your education in just a different way. Stay safe, stay healthy, and hopefully I'll see you later.